Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to attend this special webinar on Newfoundland Labrador with Senior Discovery Tours, featuring guest speaker, Margaret Mueller. My name is Natalia Vargas, and I have been a tour consultant and tour manager at Senior Discovery Tours for 9 years. And I've had the privilege of traveling to almost 40 countries and every continent except Antarctica, which is still on my list. Please note that everyone has been muted. There will be a question and answer period at the end of Margaret's presentation. Should you have any questions at any time, please enter them into the Q&A section at either the bottom or the top of your screen, depending on your device. Today, we have a surprise. One lucky attendee is going to win a $100 gift certificate for future travel with Senior Discovery Tours. At the end of the presentation, I will ask a question based on the webinar, and the first person to put the correct answer in the Zoom chat will be the lucky winner. Please stay tuned for this exciting opportunity. On our agenda today, we will briefly discuss our updated health and safety regulations in relation to COVID-19 and some of our exciting new reward programs. Present our guest speaker, Margaret Mueller, who will take us on a virtual tour of one of our most popular holidays, Newfoundland and Labrador. There will then be a question and answer period. After the Q&A, we will outline our many tours and what makes us so unique. So for anyone who is new to Senior Discovery Tours, please stick around. We are now going to outline our health and COVID-19 protocols and our new discovery rewards. For those who attended our last webinar, this may be a repeat. Feel free to grab a coffee and come back in about 3 minutes. First, a little about us. Senior Discovery Tours is the largest Canadian tour operator specializing in fully escorted worldwide group tours for the mature traveler since 1975. We now offer over 200 tours and cruises, all with interesting itineraries, flexible pricing, great value, and quality. The health and safety of our clients and staff are of the utmost importance, and we are delighted to report that we have been awarded the Safe Travel Stamp by the World Travel and Tourism Council. We anticipate there will be a vaccination certificate necessary for any travel to a foreign country and possibly even to board an aircraft. These regulations will be outlined by governing countries. Vaccination against COVID-19 will be required to participate in a Senior Discovery Tour. Proof must be submitted to our offices no later than 14 days prior to departure. We have updated our policy to ensure you are covered for COVID-19 when traveling with us. Senior Discovery Tours is excited to launch 2 new programs, Discovery Rewards and Blue Sky Referrals. From exclusive travel items to discounts on future tours, this is an exciting way to get more out of every trip you take. Simply put, the more you travel, the higher your rewards. Another amazing program is our Insider Club benefits. If you are part of a club or association, we will offer a 4% commission that will be paid directly to the club or association. The best part is that there's no minimum number of participants required for the benefit. To book a virtual presentation for your club, please contact us. You can book with confidence and complete peace of mind with our new special cancellation policy. You may now cancel your tour up to 45 days for Canadian holidays and 60 days for international travel prior to your departure date, and Senior Discovery Tours will offer you an immediate full refund. Should Senior Discovery Tours be forced to cancel a tour due to government advisories, you will be issued an immediate full refund. Presently, we are accepting bookings for Canadian tours only. However, starting June 17th, tomorrow, our international tours for 2021 and 2022 will be open for booking. You can expect this brochure to arrive at your home sometime next month. If you're not currently on our mailing list, please subscribe on our website. Each season, we like to include new and unique, exciting tour destinations. Our latest brochure features these incredible new tours: Cuba, off the beaten path, Barbados, Martinique and Guadeloupe, colonial treasures of Mexico, hidden gems of Mexico, wellness yoga retreat in Costa Rica, Argentina, Buenos Aires and Mar del Plata, wonders of ancient Egypt, and wonders of Thailand. Now, on with the program. Today, our special guest is one of our experienced tour managers, Margaret Mueller. Margaret has worked with Senior Discovery Tours for the past 20 years, and she has been in the travel industry for over 40, managing many tours to Newfoundland and Labrador. With its friendly people, rich history, and spectacular beauty, it was love at first sight for Margaret. Hi, Margaret. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Natalie. Thank you. And thank you to all of our viewers for joining us this afternoon. So, welcome to the Rock. It is my great pleasure to tell you about one of my favorite destinations, Newfoundland and Labrador. This map illustrates our routing, and as you can see, we show you all the highlights. Next slide, please. We fly into Deer Lake, and from there, it's just a short drive to Corner Brook, where we spend the first 2 nights at the beautiful Glen Mill Inn. The Glen Mill Inn is a registered heritage structure. It opened in 1924 as living quarters for senior staff during the construction of the paper mill, which when completed was the largest in the world. Now that's the paper mill and not the hotel. While we're in Corner Brook, we drive you around town to show you the sights. We stop at Captain Cook's Lookout for a panoramic view of Corner Brook and the Bay of Islands. Next slide, please. From there, we follow the Captain Cook Trail along the shores of the Bay of Islands right out to the Gulf of St. Lawrence, passing through places like Frenchman's Cove, Lark Harbor, and Bottle Cove. Now, you don't often associate Captain Cook with Newfoundland, but he was here in the 1760s and he surveyed and charted the coastal waters around the island of Newfoundland. And today it's still possible to use his maps and charts today for navigation. Amazing, huh? Also in Corner Brook, we will visit the Corner Brook Museum. They have displays there about the natural and cultural history of the region that we think you might find very interesting. Next slide, please. So we leave Corner Brook and we will make our way north on the Viking Trail into Grossmore National Park. We will have with us for most of the day a local expert that will talk about the geology, the flora and fauna, and as well as the human history of the park. Now, on the top photo, you see a rusty colored mountain. That is Tableland Mountain. And this mountain makes our Grossmore National Park also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. What happened here was a piece of the Earth's mantle was forced up through the Earth's crust during a plate collision several 100 million years ago, thus proving the theory of plate tectonics. Now, the rock that it is made out of is peridotite, which is low in calcium, very high in magnesium, and toxic amounts of heavy metal. Subsequently, almost nothing grows there. The same thing occurred in Australia, and we are all familiar with Ayers Rock. We'll also make a stop in a gorgeous little fishing village called Trout River. You'll have a chance to wander around, take some photos, and perhaps even have a yarn with one of the local fishermen. Next slide, please. So on the bottom left-hand photo, you will see a mountain in the background. That is Grossmore Mountain, the namesake of the park. And in the foreground, you see the gorgeous little community of Woody Point. Now we make a lunch stop there, but you also have a little bit of time to look around. And from there, we take the water shuttle across Bon Bay. It's about a half an hour or so. and fantastic views of the park from there. And also we might spot some bald eagles, which is always exciting. On the other side, we arrive at Norris Point, pardon me, Norris Point, and we continue our journey through the park with picture stops as well. Now you're going to keep your eyes peeled. You might see a moose or two maybe. Moose, it's interesting because they're not native to Newfoundland. They were introduced here in 1904. The population of moose on the island is about 120,000. I've heard different numbers, but that's about average. So we got to keep a lookout for our moose then. Next slide, please. The Lobster Cove Head Lighthouse has been marking the entrance to Bond Bay since 1897. And the photo on the right is the Arches Provincial Park. It's just outside of Gros Morne. Very interesting rock formation, of course, created by wind and water erosion, but also the rocks that are on the beach there are quite interesting. Different shapes and sizes and colors. Quite a great stop for photos. From there, we carry on north to Plum Point, where we will spend the night. Next slide, please. The following day, we'll make our way over to Lanzo Meadows National Historic Site, also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And it is certainly one of the highlights of the tour. This is the only place in North America that they have positive proof of the very first European presence here, and that is the Norse coming from Greenland. And according to the sagas, it was Leif Erikson who established a base camp here around the year 1000. He came to harvest the trees because wood was very scarce in Greenland. And while he was there, they picked up other things, and they also had time to explore the region. They say that this site was occupied off and on for less than 20 years. And so it lay dormant for several centuries. And it was in 1960 that a Norwegian power couple known as Helge Ingstedt and Anne Stina, they discovered the site and they began the excavation. Afterwards, Parks Canada took over. While we're there, we'll visit the museum. We'll have a guided tour of the archaeological site where you're going to see the outline of all the buildings that they discovered. And afterwards, we'll get a chance to visit in these sod replicas, the ones you see pictured on your screen. There are costume guides there, and they are marvelous. They know absolutely nothing of what has happened in the last 1,000 years, but they certainly have some great stories about things that happened during the time that this site was occupied. Next slide, please. From there, we'll make our way into the town of St. Anthony, where we'll visit the Grenfell Historic Properties. In the 1890s, Dr. Grenfell, who was a missionary doctor, he visited Labrador and northern Newfoundland, and he brought modern medicine to these areas, setting up hospitals and nursing stations. Dr. Grenfell saw the endless cycle of poverty the fishermen were in and was determined to help them. He set up fishermen's cooperatives, he promoted industries and established schools and orphanages. He also did fundraising throughout North America and the UK in his spare time, as if he had any. While we're here, we visit the museum that you see on the right, and also his home in St. Anthony that you see on the left. It's affectionately known by the locals as the Castle, and it's a wonderful house, a great place to explore. It reminds me of my grandmother's house, actually. Anyway, we overnight in St. Anthony that night. Next slide, please. The following day, we retrace our steps to St. Barb, where we catch a ferry that'll take us across the Straits of Belle Isle to Labrador. The ferry crossing itself takes about an hour and a half. And sometimes we even see some wildlife in the waters there. We have spotted seals there on occasion. Anyway, once we arrive on the other side, we take a scenic drive along the coast of Labrador all the way to Red Bay. And there we will visit the Red Bay National Historic Site. Again, it's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And while we're there, we're going to learn all about the Basque whalers here in North America. Now, this was a whaling station from 1540 to 1620. The Basques, they were the whalers of Europe. However, when they first came to North America, they were looking for fish. But they came here to fish. They noticed the abundance of whales and quickly switched to the more lucrative business of whaling. This was the world's first oil boom, and here they produced the oil that lit the lamps of Europe. The site was abandoned after 80 years, primarily due to the political climate in Europe at the time. And it was abandoned and, well, anyway, it was rediscovered in the 1970s. A woman by the name of Selma Barkham was doing research in the Spanish archive. She wanted to know more about the history of the Basques in North America because little was known at the time. She discovered some documents that indicated that a vessel had sunk in Labrador. So underwater archaeologists dove there right in Red Bay, and they found the San Juan, which sank in Red Bay with a full cargo of oil in 1565. She was ready to go back to Europe. This ship is one of only two in the world that provides examples of the naval architecture that allowed Europeans to colonize the New World in the 16th century. Now, the picture on the left, that is Point Amour Lighthouse. That was built at the very narrowest part of the Strait of Belle Isle in 1858. It is the tallest lighthouse in Atlantic Canada and second tallest in Canada, measuring 33 meters in height. During the day of sail, the straits were not used much because of the wind hazards and also the ice that sometimes could be found there. With the advent of the steamships in the mid-19th century, the strait saw increased use and therefore they built the lighthouses. It was a much shorter distance to go through the strait into the St. Lawrence than going all the way around the island of Newfoundland. Now, this lighthouse has been automated and de-staffed like so many lighthouses have, but here it's been turned into a museum. The light still operates, but it's automatic. The old lighthouse keeper's house has been restored to what it would have looked like in the 1860s. But what is a very unusual here, is that we are able to climb right up to the light. Okay, 132 steps for you brave people. If you're interested, you get a close look at the mechanism there, but also from there you have fabulous views over the Straits of Belle Isle, and you may even spot a whale, which is something that we do occasionally. Now, we do spend the night in Labrador at Lands-Eau-Claire, the lovely Northern Light Inn. We return to the island of Newfoundland by ferry, again, the same ferry. Next slide, please. And we head south to Cowhead into Grossmore National Park. In Cowhead, we're 2 nights at the Shallow Bay Motel where you will just feel right at home. And that's how friendly the staff are there. They'll look after us extremely well. We're here 2 nights. So while we're here, another one of the highlights of our tour is a cruise on Western Brook Pond that you see pictured there. And it's a freshwater fjord. Now, this fjord was carved up by glaciers during the last ice age when the island of Newfoundland was completely covered by ice. After the glaciers receded and melted, the weight of the ice was lifted off the island and it began to rise up or rebound. And it's continuing to do that to this day. It hasn't stopped. Now, the fjord itself was eventually cut off from the Gulf due to silt buildup at the entrance and of course the rebounding of the land. Eventually, freshwater replaced the salt, so it is a freshwater fjord. Now, to get to this lake, we have to walk from the parking lot to the water's edge, and it's about a 3-kilometer walk on a well-groomed trail. And we cruise the full length of the fjord, takes about 2 hours there and back with spectacular scenery. And they do have several interesting waterfalls that we will see. And one that has an extremely unusual name. It's called Pissing Mare Falls. We always get a chuckle out of that one. And then once we're back in Cowhead that evening, we take in a performance at the Grossmorn Theatre Festival. This year, they are celebrating their 25th season. And they're located right next to the motel, which makes it kind of convenient for us. Next slide, please. So when we leave Cowhead, we're going to be leaving also Western Newfoundland, heading into Central Newfoundland. And one of our stops this day will be Kings Point. It's located on Green Bay, which is part of Notre Dame Bay. We haven't included lunch there, but we also visit the Whale Pavilion. And there, top right corner, you see a skeleton of a 50-foot humpback whale. The story behind this is that back in 2001, 2 humpback whales were caught in fishing nets. The fishermen tried to save them. They managed to save one, however, the other drowned. Now, this dead whale they towed to shore, so to avoid it becoming a navigational hazard. The bones were removed and cleaned, and now they're on display here at the Whale Pavilion. She's affectionately known as the Humpback of Notre Dame. You'll also have time to visit the Kings Point Pottery, which is a gallery and retail shop owned by award-winning potters Linda Yates and David Hayashida. Besides their own production, there's a wonderful selection of the best of Newfoundland and Labrador arts and crafts. We leave Kings Point and head over to Grand Falls, Windsor, where we visit the Salmonid Interpretation Center, which is right next to the Grand Falls on the Exploits River. Here we learn all about the Atlantic salmon and one of the most impressive salmon enhancement projects in North America. We visit the Interpretation Center. There are salmon ladders right there. You can see the salmon jumping from one pool to the next. Quite impressive, actually. And also there's some very pretty views of the falls. Next slide, please. From there, we continue to Gander, where we have a 2-night stay again. And Gander is all about the airport and flight. The air traffic control at Gander is the only oceanic unit in Canada and has jurisdiction over international and domestic airspace from west of Newfoundland to the mid-Atlantic and north to Greenland. And this is why Gander played such an important role on September the 11th, 2001. The aircraft that were heading towards North America from Europe were in contact with air traffic control at Gander and were advised of the situation in the US and were also advised where to land. Okay. In the photo you see here, you see all the planes lined up there waiting for the signal that they can carry on their flight. 38 planes landed in Gander with close to 6,600 passengers and crew. Okay, now that's a lot, and Gander is a small place, so that would be the equivalent of 2/3 of the population of Gander. Well, they were treated royally. They're welcomed by the locals and taken well good care of. Now, I think a lot of you may have heard of. Many of you may have seen the musical Come From Away. Of course, it's based on what happened here in Gander on 9/11. In that play, one character is the mayor, or I should say former mayor now, Claude Elliott. He was mayor at the time, and we've invited him to come and speak to our groups while we're in Gander. And he has some wonderful stories, quite a lovely gentleman, and I think you would enjoy that very much. Next slide, please. So as I said, we're here in Gander for 2 nights. And then while we're there, we take a scenic drive along the various islands until we reach the town of Twillingate, which you see here. It was one of Newfoundland's largest centers for the Labrador and cod and seal fisheries in its heyday. Still today, it's involved in the fishery. While we're there, we visit the Twillingate Museum, which was built in 1914 as the rectory behind St. Peter's Anglican Church. It displays furnishings and household items from the 19th and early 20th centuries. One room in particular always interests me, and it is dedicated to a local woman by the name of Georgina Sterling. She gained international fame as an opera singer, and she toured and performed in all the famous opera houses throughout Europe and North America. In this room dedicated to her, there are various costumes that she wore on stage. Also, there's a recording of her voice. When she retired from the stage, she returned to Twillingate and lived out her life here. Next slide, please. I like to see all the lighthouses I can, and just past Twillingate, at the very end of the road, is the Long Point Lighthouse that you see here on the left. When I see that, I always have to smile, because I look at that and I think about the old-fashioned milk bottles that the milkman used to deliver to our doorstep when I was a kid. Now, of course, those milk bottles were made of glass and not painted red like the lighthouse. But the shape of it reminds me so much of that. It always takes me back to my childhood. Also, that same day, we visit the Beothic Interpretation Center at Boyd's Cove. And there we learn all about the Beothics. They were a group of Indigenous people that lived here on the island of Newfoundland and eventually became extinct in 1829. That was the year that the last known Beothic, a woman by the name of Shauna Dithit, she passed away while she was living in St. John's. Now, the reason the museum is here is that there was a Beothic camp located right in this area, and it was discovered, or rediscovered, if you will, by Dr. Ralph Pastore in 1981. He found 11 house pits, 4 of which he excavated, and that was enough for him to date the site from 1650 to 1720. They have a museum, and you see a picture on the bottom right. That is one of the exhibits there. They've won awards for this museum, so it's very well done. And so you have the museum, and you also have a chance to walk the trail to the archaeological site. Now, it is a 1.5-kilometer walk in each direction. It's entirely up to you. At the site, you just see the outlines of the various house pits. The walk itself is nice. Anyway, at the end of the day, we're going to take you out for dinner. We're going to take you out for a jigs dinner, in fact. It is a traditional Sunday dinner in Newfoundland. It consists of salt beef and cabbage, plus a whole lot more. I'm starting to get hungry. Anyway, pardon me, next slide, please. When we leave Gander, we'll make our way out onto the Bonavista Peninsula to the small town of Trinity. It's an absolutely gorgeous little town. A town, that's even too much, a hamlet perhaps. And it was in 1501 that Portuguese explorer Gaspar Corte-Real circumnavigated the island of Newfoundland. He may possibly have been the first one to do so. And he sailed into this harbor on Trinity Sunday, and that's how it got its name. It became an extremely important fishing and mercantile community, quite large for standards of those days. But today, it's a very favorite summer destination for visitors and Newfoundlanders alike. In fact, a lot of people have summer homes located here. A lot of historic buildings, and it's a wonderful place to wander and enjoy the facades and also visit these buildings. We'll be supplying the tickets for that. And besides that, there are also some great trails that take you on a little bit outside of the town for other views as well. Now, 2 things I highly recommend that you see and visit the interior are the 2 churches that you see in the picture. Well, the one on the right is St. Paul's Anglican Church, built in 1894, with a seating capacity for 500. Now, that's significant because the population today of historic Trinity is about 35. So you can see how large a community it was in its heyday. The architecture is also interesting. When you go inside, look up at the ceiling because it resembles the bottom of a boat or a ship. And there's good reason for that. It was because those boat builders or ship builders were the ones that built the churches. Now, the bottom left-hand corner, you see another church. It's much smaller. That is the Roman Catholic Church of the Most Holy Trinity. Built in 1833, it is Newfoundland and Labrador's oldest existing wooden church. And what a gorgeous little church it is. Trinity, a great place to wander. Every time you turn around, it's another Kodak moment. I think you just enjoy being there. I do. Anyway, from there we carry on to Clarenville, where we spend the night. Next slide, please. So after we've had a good night's rest at the Clarenville Inn, the next day we are, as they say in Newfoundland, we're going to town. And when you're there, if you're going to town, that could only mean one thing: you're going to St. John's. Now, we're not going to take you straight there because there's some interesting things we want to show you along the way. And one of those is Heart's Content cable station. So we veer off into the town of Heart's Content. A major event happened here in global communications. It was 1866 when they landed the first successful transatlantic cable from Valencia, Ireland, right here to Heart's Content. It changed global communications forever. Prior to that time, to get a message across the Atlantic would take weeks. After that cable was laid, it took minutes. Okay, huge difference. The gentleman responsible for that was Cyrus Field, and he employed a ship called the Great Eastern, which was the largest ship afloat at the time, 5 times larger than the next largest ship. And on that one ship, they managed to carry the entire length of cable. So they put one end there in Valencia and brought the other one here to Heart's Content. Next slide, please. So after spending this time out in the small communities and out ports, arriving in St. John's is a little bit of a culture shock. You see a city here, an actual city, but it's a beautiful city and it's one I love. So we stay here in St. John's for 3 nights at a great hotel right downtown St. John's. So you're steps away from everything you want to see and do while you're in the city. Of course, while we're there, we will take you on a city tour with a local guide. And we will, of course, show you the sights of the city. And we're also going to spend some time on Signal Hill, which you see pictured to the right. And fabulous views from there, but a lot of fascinating history as well. You'll have free time while we're in St. John's as well. You'll have opportunities to visit some museums, and they have a couple world-class museums. One, the Rooms, which is an art gallery, archives, and history museum. The other museum I highly recommend is the Johnson Geo Center, where they have displays on of course, the geology of the province, as well as interesting exhibits on the offshore oil industry and the Titanic as well, because the Titanic sunk off Newfoundland. There's other smaller museums as well, if you're interested, art galleries, the churches are interesting to see as well. Many, many great restaurants to try, and of course, all the shopping on Water Street. Okay, so I think you'll enjoy that. Now in the evening, I usually end up going down to George Street, and you might want to come with me because George Street is wall-to-wall pubs. There are more pubs on George Street per square inch than anywhere else in the world, or so they say. So, and those pubs also, especially in the evenings, they will have live music, and much of it is the traditional Newfoundland music, which is certainly something that I love. Next slide, please. So we also make our way out to the Far East. That's what I call it, but everybody else calls it Cape Spear. This is the most easterly point in North America. It has 2 lighthouses, and you see both there pictured. The one on the left at the end of the picket fence is the oldest lighthouse in Canada, built in 1836. It's been restored to its original appearance and can be visited, and we have time to do that. And on the right is the new lighthouse built in 1955. It's still in use. And again, it has been de-staffed and automated. We're not allowed to visit that one. You cannot climb the tower here. But these lighthouses were built to mark the entrance to St. John's Harbor, also known as the Narrows. And this place, Cape Spear, also played a very important role during the Second World War. Troops were stationed here and gun emplacements were built at the tip of the cape, again, guarding this entrance to the harbor, because the waters around here were being patrolled by German submarines. And they did do some damage in Newfoundland. They even sunk a ferry, the Caribou, very tragic event. But there was a real and present danger in Newfoundland during the Second World War. Next slide, please. And probably one of the last things we do before we go home is we take drive down to Bay Bulls. And with the help of the Gatheralls, we take a cruise out into Witless Bay Ecological Reserve. This reserve contains 4 small islands. And here, hundreds of thousands of seabirds come to the islands to nest and raise their young. There on the left, the puffins. North America's largest Atlantic puffin colony is located here. The world's 2nd largest colony of Leach's storm petrels. Also, you'll find black-legged kittiwakes and common murres here on the islands as well. Now, when you're not looking at the birds, you might want to look at the water to see if you can spot some whales. Most often we see humpbacks and also minke whales, but also we have spotted in the past fin whales and porpoises. So it's a wonderful to get out on the Atlantic. The cruise lasts about an hour and a half. Once we get back to town, our last night, we have a special farewell dinner with entertainment, and everybody gets to kiss a fish. So, ladies and gentlemen, as they say in Newfoundland, the arse is right out of her. The end. So thank you very much for your very kind attention. Back to you, Natalia.
Thank you so much, Margaret, for your incredible presentation. During the question and answer period, if you have a question, please enter it into the Q&A box. I will now be introducing you to another one of our experienced tour managers, Barbara Birdie. Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
Barbara is a consummate traveler and has been to many places that you've probably never even heard of. She has been a tour manager with Senior Discovery Tours for the past 8 years after a 35-year career in television. She will be our host for our Q&A session.
Thanks, Natalia. Hi, Margaret. Great presentation.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you.
I've only ever been to Newfoundland on business. I've never been there as a tourist. So you made me immediately want to sign up for one of the tours. But let me ask before we get into the rest of the questions, how many kilometers do we actually travel in Newfoundland during the tour?
Yeah, we do cover a lot of territory. We travel somewhere between 2,600 and 2,700 kilometers, roughly. And of course, lots of beautiful scenery along the way and information. And I usually have some music on once in a while, so it makes for a pleasant journey. Lots of stops along the way too.
Lots of stops. Okay, yes. Can you tell me a little bit more about the accommodation? What kinds of places do we stay? I know that we're in some remote areas. What are those places are like?
Well, we stay in motels and quaint inns. Now they're all very clean, comfortable, and wonderful service. So I think everybody will be very pleased with our accommodations that we've chosen for them.
Sort of like being at home.
Yeah, they make you feel at home. They really do. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, the dreaded question that all tour managers really hate is, how many early starts do we really have? Are they long days? Do we get into our next stop early enough so that we can really enjoy where we're going?
Well, we don't have any 6 a.m. starts, let's put it that way. Generally, we start around 8:30, 9 o'clock, even sometimes 9:30. And we get in at a reasonable time also in the afternoon. Have time to look around or freshen up before dinner. It's not a rush program. And we do have free time in St. John's and also in Cowhead. So yeah.
Great.
Does that answer
So-
the question?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now, another question. In terms of the included meals, if there's somebody who doesn't like seafood or someone who's allergic to seafood, are there other options that are on the menu?
Yeah, what they can do is give me their seafood and I'll buy them a cheese sandwich or something. No, no, we have a variety of meals, of dinners while we're on tour. Some of them are fixed menus, others are where you have choices, and still others we have buffets. Now, if someone has an allergy or strong dislike to a certain food, we will definitely get an alternative for them. We certainly want everyone to feel well, so no allergic reactions, and to feel well and healthy and enjoy our excursions.
And in locations where dinner isn't included, is it easy to find a place to eat?
Yeah. There are 3 places that we don't have the meal, just one dinner included in 3 places. The first in Corner Brook, there are actually 3 options right in the hotel to dine. And you are in the center of town, so it's a short walk to other options. At Cowhead is our second time where you have a meal not included. And again, in the hotel are a couple of options. And in St. John's, oh my goodness, you don't have enough days to try all the fabulous restaurants they have in St. John's. And they're all very close to the hotel, so it's an easy walk.
Well, you mentioned how you changed their seafood for a cheese sandwich. Well, my other question for somebody who really loves seafood is, where's the best place to eat seafood in Newfoundland?
No, Barbara, I love seafood too. And I have to say immediately St. John's, because as I said, so many restaurants and most of them serve seafood. And of course, being right on the ocean, it's all lovely and fresh.
Now, before we get into talking about wildlife, you did picture a moose. Now, just curious, one of our attendees would like to know, why were moose introduced into Newfoundland?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. They were introduced as another source of protein in the diets of the fishermen living in the area, because really they had, fish and not much else. Seal flippers when the season was on. So another source of protein to keep the people healthier.
And do you know who actually brought them in the beginning?
No, but they came from the Miramichi area of New Brunswick. They arrived in Hurley, which is near Deer Lake, in fact. And 2 pairs, they were set loose and everybody was told not to hunt them until they multiplied. And eventually they did, of course. It's hard to imagine from 4 moose, you have 120,000. I've even seen numbers as high as 150,000. So hunting season is, the hunters get a lot of success when they go out in the fall.
I'm sure they do.
They're
So what other kinds of wildlife might we see?
Well, I mean, that is the best chance of seeing wildlife is the moose. But I have spotted as well, very rarely, but have done so, is caribou, which are native to Newfoundland. They also have bears, black bears. They're very shy. You don't see them too much. Of course, the whales that I mentioned, and also besides the birds at the Witless Bay Reserve, bald eagles we usually spot when we're in Gros Morne, things like this. Yeah.
One of our other, one of the other participants asked, in some of your photographs, there were obviously icebergs in the distance. Now, do those icebergs come from the Canadian Arctic or do they come from Greenland?
Yeah. Okay. They come from Greenland. What happens is that they break off from tidewater glaciers or calve. So these bergs, they catch a ride on the Labrador Current. It is a cold water current that starts at Greenland follows the coast of Labrador down to the coast of Newfoundland as well. And it takes several years actually for them to arrive in Newfoundland. And of course, during the summer months when they're traveling, they melt because of the warm weather. And because of that, they're becoming scarcer as well. So if we see an iceberg, we're lucky. Does that answer the question? The answer is Greenland.
I want to go to Greenland.
I tend to get a little bit carried away.
That's okay. It's okay. The other question is, somebody asked if there were, in terms of walking, you mentioned that there was a 6-kilometer walk, 3 kilometers in, 3 kilometers out. And you've said that the path was fairly straight, but what is the path actually like in terms of walking? And if people really choose that, they say, I can't do this, or I don't want to do it, is there a place for them to sit? Do they have another option? What might there be at the end of the destination?
Okay, yeah, good question. The path is a groomed trail. There is a bit of a hill at the end, not Mount Everest or anything like that. It is primarily gravel. Okay, it's gravel trail, and along the way they have information panels, so you can they tell you a little bit about the vegetation there. There's your best opportunity to see the floral emblem of Newfoundland, which is the pitcher plant, grows in the bog. It's actually a carnivorous plant, if you will. It eats insects. Like the Venus flytrap. And they talk about different things. In fact, one time we even walked past a moose that was just standing there grazing. I thought, holy crow. But it's a good trail. As I said, primarily gravel. Now, those of you who don't care to do the walk, or can't, it is 6 kilometers total, we have an alternate cruise for you. Now, what happens that day is once everybody's off the bus at the trailhead to go to Western Brook Pond, the driver will take everyone else, or anyone who doesn't want to do the walk, will take you down to Norris Point. And from there, you will take a cruise on Bon Bay. Now, we were on Bon Bay at the beginning of the tour when we did our water shuttle across, but they have an extensive cruise for 2 hours along Bon Bay, and they give a very interesting commentary. The crew are a lot of fun on that cruise as well. And then when they come back, they get back in the bus and they stop by the parking lot, but that time everybody else has walked out from Western Brook Pond, and then we head back to Cowhead. So there is an alternate, but I should maybe remind people at this point, this is a tour that is designed for fit and active people, seniors. And we're on and off the bus quite a bit, and there is walking every single day. Now, this is our longest walk, okay? But to see everything and appreciate everything that Newfoundland and Senior Discovery Tours has to offer, you should be in good shape to enjoy this tour.
But tied into that question, she also wanted to know if there were many steps.
Not there.
But anywhere in the tour, there are lots of
Okay,
steps and climbing.
Okay. No, but let me see. We stay in a lot of times motels, small inns. In some of these places do not have elevators. Okay. Now, I usually ask, and I'm pretty sure my colleagues do as well, if there's anyone that doesn't care to do the stairs at the end of the day to get to their rooms. So we try to make sure that they have ground floor rooms. Now, what was I going to say now? Just to bear in mind, you don't have to carry your luggage up these stairs because we have porterage in all of our hotels. So your bags are brought to your room. So you don't have to worry about climbing a flight of stairs and then carrying your luggage with you. That's all included. So nothing to worry about there. I have people that request the second floor just so they can get a few steps in.
I completely understand that.
Yeah.
But another person asked, and this is about the writers of Woody Point Festival. Have you ever been at Woody Point when that's been on? Because she wanted to know. I just checked, and it's this year. It happens to be on August 17th to the 22nd. But can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, yes, this is something that's been going on for many years, and it's been very successful. They have several festivals in Woody Point. that being one of them. We don't spend enough time in Woody Point to get involved in that. We stop for lunch. They have a little time to wander around, but we wouldn't be able to attend any of the readings or meetings with various authors. So a lot of great things happen. They have regattas on the bay. There's all sorts of events happening in Grossmorn during the summer months.
Fantastic. Okay, now this is that dreaded question that all tour managers get asked at some point in time. Is there time for shopping? And when do we get to go shopping?
No shopping. No. Of course, there's always our shoppers, right? As I mentioned, we have time in St. John's, and that's a good place to shop because you have the time and you just walk out the door of our hotel and you're right downtown on Water Street where you'll find some of the nicest shopping, unique shops, things you won't find in the mall at home. But a lot of the places we stop to visit will also have a gift shop, so you can pick up your souvenirs there, have a look around. A lot of nice shops along the way as well, and I certainly make a point of pointing them out as well.
Now, you showed a beautiful photograph of Trinity, and there were two fantastic churches that were there as you described them. I'm just curious, do they still have services in those churches?
I love Trinity. Yeah. The short answer, because I seem to be getting into long answers, but the short answer is yes. But because of the population of Trinity being so small, what happens there is the ministers and priests have more than one parish. So they'll have a service in Trinity one Sunday, and then the following Sunday, they'll be in another community to have a mass or a service. So one priest or minister could have 3 or even 4 parishes. And I understand that's something that's done in more rural parts of Ontario as well.
Okay, last question. That is, I've been always curious as to why all the houses in St. John's are painted so amazingly in all these beautiful colors.
Yeah. Oh, they are beautiful. It's wonderful to see. In fact, those colored houses are right next to our hotel. There's a whole neighborhood there full of homes, like residential homes, and all the different colors. So it's a great place to wander and get some great photos. Now, the reason for these colors, these bright colors, would probably have something to do with St. John's nickname. It's called Fog Town. And it can get very foggy in St. John's on occasions. And so the colorful houses makes it easier to for people to find their way back home. And I suppose if it's not foggy outside, you might be a little foggy when you're returning home from George Street after the pub, right? So you might need a little help with a different color of housing.
They just consumed a little too much screech.
That's it.
That's
That's exactly.
But they can find their house.
Well, it helps. They may not be successful, but it helps.
Oh, Margaret, thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you. Me too, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara, for hosting our Q&A sessions, and once again to Margaret for such an informative presentation.
My pleasure.
We are now entering the last 10 minutes of our webinar. Please feel free to continue to use the chat box to send us any questions you have. Don't miss out on our next exciting webinar taking place on July 27th, featuring the magic of Eastern Europe, Budapest, Vienna, and Prague, with expert tour manager Neil McTavish. Be sure to subscribe to our e-newsletter on our website to receive a free Zoom invite directly in your inbox. Stay tuned for details regarding upcoming webinars on our social media. If you would like to learn more about Senior Discovery Tours, please stay with us, as I will be providing more details about our tour types and inclusions, plus everything that makes traveling with us so exceptional. We'd like to take care of all the details, both big and small. Just a few of the things we include on all tours: round-trip transportation between your home and the airport in most Canadian cities, all airfare and airport taxes, carefully selected accommodation, most meals, all tipping and taxes, cancellation insurance, health insurance while outside Canada. The best part is that all our tours are guaranteed in Canadian funds with all taxes included and no hidden fees. To further enhance your tour experience, we provide meet and greet service at Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, and Vancouver airports to help assist with your check-in experience. Tours fully escorted by one of our experienced tour managers. Expert local guides providing knowledgeable commentary on the history, culture, and customs of the destination you're visiting, as well as entry visas to those countries where it is required. Our optional services allow you to curate your own travel experience. We offer air extensions should you wish to stay longer in the country you're visiting, air upgrades to assist with the comfort of your flying experience, waiting lists for those tours that are sold out, as well as a roommate matching program. Now, on to some of our incredible tours and what they offer. We have flight plus coach tours. These tours ensure you get the most out of your holiday. They're multi-city tours, which means more hotel changes and lots of movement, ensuring tons of excitement. Listed here are some of our more popular flight and coach tours. Just like the term suggests, these tours are best suited for those that enjoy staying in one location and exploring its surroundings. These tours are much more leisurely, allowing for time to relax and to also enjoy excursions. Here are just a few examples. Next, we have our 2 and 3 center holidays. Focusing on 2 or 3 different regions or countries, these tours are excellent if you want to combine a couple of locations but still have plenty of time to explore. Listed here are some of our most popular 2 and 3 center holidays. Another vacation type is our classical coach tour. These tours are perfect for those who do not care to travel abroad and wish to have an experience closer to home. Adventurous travelers who enjoy moving around while taking in incredible scenery love our walking and hiking tours. Imagine yourself walking through quaint French villages, along coastal paths, or by magnificent lakes while listening to the expert commentary of your local guide. Truly a wonderful way to travel. Our rail tours are becoming increasingly popular, offering a completely different perspective and unique way of traveling. It's easy to see why. From the Jacobite to the Glacier Express and to the Rocky Mountaineer, there's no shortage of unforgettable scenery on any of these tours. For those wanting more out of their travel experience, think about our exotic destinations. They will be full of adventure and never-ending opportunities for discovery. These tours are sure to delight anyone ready for an exciting journey. And lastly, there is no need to pack and unpack several times to get the most out of your tour. You will have access to hundreds of activities and amenities, not to mention incredible views. Senior Discovery Tours now offers 30 different cruises in locations all over the world. Here are some of our more popular cruises. Now, the time you've been waiting for has come to ask a question for your chance to win a $100 gift certificate for future travel with Senior Discovery Tours. Remember, the first person to place the answer in the Zoom chat box will be the lucky winner. The question is, listen carefully. What is the name of the 1890s missionary doctor that brought modern medicine to northern Newfoundland and coastal Labrador? We will now give you a few moments to enter your answer in the chat box. Once again, I will repeat the question for you. Listen carefully. What is the name of the 1890s missionary doctor that brought modern medicine to northern Newfoundland and coastal Labrador? Go ahead and enter your answers. We want to thank all our loyal customers who have been posting such wonderful reviews on our social media over the past year. Please continue to let us know about your past travels and memories with Senior Discovery Tours. And send us any suggestions you have for future webinars. You can follow us on all social media platforms. These addresses can be found on our website. Now it is the time to check for the lucky winner. And I have the name here. It is Charles Taylor. Congratulations to Charles. We will be in touch with you shortly to claim your prize. The answer to the question is Dr. Grenfell, of course. We would like to extend our appreciation to all of you for joining us today. We hope to see you again soon. Have a great afternoon. Ciao.